Ladies and gentlemen, I call this regularly scheduled Craven County Board of Commissioners meeting to order on Monday, February 18th. I'd like to remind everybody, if you would silence your phones or your electronic devices at this time. Madam Clerk, if you call a roll.
Commissioner Booker, Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner McCabe,
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Sampson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Mark,
Here.
Chairman Liner.
Here. If you please stand for the pledge and remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand.
Please remain standing and pray with me. Almighty God, thank you for your many blessings upon our country and Craven County. Even in the midst of great challenges, disappointments, joys, grief, and victories, you are ever present and ever mindful of all that we do. Forgive us when we get in the way of ourselves. Give us your wisdom and grace. Bless the workings of this Board of County Commissioners for the goodwill, peace, and justice of the people of Craven County. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Again, thank and welcome each and every one of you for the meeting. Approve the agenda is next. I have two things on the approve the agenda. Under 4, we have planning. I'd like to make that A and add B. Designate federal agents to the federal HMGP program. That's the buyout program for the storm damages that we can discuss and talk about. If there's no objection, that's an emotion to add that to B, make that B.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now approve, take an amendment, motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda, minutes of February 4th, 2019, tax releases and refunds, search and rescue resolutions. Receive a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Sir?
Would you like us to read the resolution to the record, sir?
Yes, sir.
Resolution recognizing search and rescue efforts to find Casey Hathaway. Whereas Casey Hathaway is a 3-year-old resident of Craven County, and due to unfortunate circumstances on January 22nd, 2019, was lost and alone in the woods for 55 hours, requiring an extensive search and rescue operation. And whereas the Craven County Emergency Services and Craven County Sheriff's Office responded to the 911 call placed by the family, and whereas many volunteer fire departments and emergency medical services from communities, towns, and cities throughout Beaufort County, Carteret County, Jones County, Lenoir County, Pamlico County, Pender County, and Pitt County provided numerous resources and manpower. And whereas the FBI, the SBI, Intel, the State Highway Patrol, the Coastal Carolina Search Team, the Northeast Search and Rescue Team, the new Search and Rescue Team, and the Center for Missing Children all provided professional support, needed resources, and personnel. And whereas Lenoir County Sheriff Department, Pitt County Sheriff Department, Johnston County Sheriff Department, the Town of River Bend Police Department, Atlantic Beach Police Department, the Cherry Point Police Department, and the City of New Bern Police Department provided valuable resources and personnel. And whereas the public entities of the North Carolina Forestry Service, the NC Wildlife, the NC Marine Patrol, the NC Department of Transportation, the NC Department of Public Safety, and the United States Marine Corps all participated by providing unique resources and manpower. And whereas several private entities and corporations cooperated in the search and provided resources to facilitate the search, and whereas hundreds of non-affiliated citizen volunteers were on the ground assisting with the search and rescue and praying for Casey's safe return. And whereas New Haven Church provided a central location for the volunteers to be fed and rest, Many restaurants, businesses, and other area churches provided food, beverages, and other needed supplies to support and maintain the large volunteer base participating in the search and rescue. And whereas around 9 p.m. on January 24th, Casey Hathaway was heard crying out in the woods by a neighbor walking her dog, who immediately reported it to the officials. And whereas search and rescue volunteers responded and removed Casey from the tangled underbrush and returned him safely to his family. Now therefore, the Craven County Board of Commissioners acknowledges the miraculous outcome of the well-orchestrated efforts conducted during the search and rescue operation for Casey Hathaway and commends the remarkable outpouring of assistance and cooperation adopted this 18th day of February 2019.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Chairman Liner?
Yes. And again, thank you to everyone. I know that is not everyone's name, but it's everyone's organization. With 700 names plus, that would be a long resolution. We cannot thank this county and the outside agencies enough for everything they've done. And our appreciation goes out to our own sheriff's department for everything that they've done and stepping up and making this a successful search and rescue on that. Again, thank everyone on this. Next on the Department of Matters, Health Department, Scott Harrelson, Health Director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning I have 3 items for consideration. A fee change, or periodic fee change, and 2 budget amendments. And the fee recommendation is for our Animal Control Department. We would like to have up to 6 adopt-a-thon events a year. And in order to persuade the public to, or further persuade the public to adopt animals, we would like to reduce the fees during these 6 events. Currently, the adoption fees for dogs is $105. We would suggest dropping it to $70 for this event. And for cats, the current adoption fee is $80. We would like to reduce that to $50 for these events. And at this time, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Motion?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question of the shelter director, please. What percentage of dogs and cats are euthanized under the current adoption system today?
Today, we're.
Please come forward.
Depending on the species, cats, of course, are euthanized at much higher rates than our dogs. We're right now adopting about 16% of the animals that come in. The numbers coming into the shelter are rising. We're looking at numbers that we haven't seen for a couple of years now with the new building. But to answer your question, about 16% are leaving live release.
16 or 60?
16.
16.
16, yes, ma'am.
16. And what is the disparity between the dog adoption rate and the cat adoption rate?
It's quite wide. We euthanize approximately 25% of the dogs that come in, 75% of the cats.
So you would say that any measures necessary to increase the public's interest in adopting these animals would be well justified?
Absolutely. The cost reduction will certainly help, and the quality of care that's given to the animals while they're there, healthy, viable animals, friendly.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, you might stay for this one too. What process does a person go through when they go to adopt? I mean, what is the waiting period? Are they able to take the animal that day, or is there background checks? Go through the process with us.
It's a one-day adoption. People come in, they are interested in a pet. We get basically their identification, the fees. We do talk to them. We don't have a formal process as of yet of screening, but it's a one-day adoption. It's fairly easy.
Okay.
It's very easy, actually.
I know that's one of the items in which was addressed in the steering committee that we had, a concern from some of our citizens that, you know, making that process accessible and being able to, you know, most folks don't have a lot of time, and if they take it on a Saturday, they decide they want an animal, that child wants an animal, to be able to go ahead and allow them to adopt,
Absolutely.
because if they don't go to adopt there, they probably might go somewhere else and maybe buy an animal or so forth. So I think
Absolutely.
as much as we can in making that time frame short, you know, where they can go ahead and adopt, I think is the better.
Absolutely. Most of the public spends more time getting to know the animal, see if it's a right fit. We have an exercise yard, we go out with them, we have meet and greets, that type of thing with their existing pets, but it's an easy process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
No.
I have two. What's the going rate for around the areas? Is this, with that large of a quantity of animals being euthanized, can we take this lower and still not tap into the taxpayer dollars? Or is this gonna break us right about break-even point of keeping these animals?
Right now, we're probably at break-even point. One of the big incentives in adopting a pet is the animal healthy? Has it been vaccinated, so forth? And has it been neutered? We're working on, trying to develop a program where we can have these animals neutered before they leave the animal shelter, and that should increase our adoption significantly, if we neuter these animals.
Mr. Harrison, one other thing I'd like to bring up, if possible, to add this in there, I would like to add the county manager in there for approval of the dates of when you want to do it, so he's aware of when these actual dates, so we don't have somebody come in and say, he got it, they didn't get it, so we know exactly what dates you're holding these events.
Yes,
If you could put that in there to put the manager in the chain approving those dates.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Chairman Liner?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is a budget amendment for maternal and child health in the amount of $20,757. This was one-time funded, unbudgeted, came to us during the year. And what we would propose using these funds for would be a vision screener for our child health department here in New Bern. We have one already in Havelock. A non-stress test machine in maternity, which basically measures contraction rate of the mother and fetal heart rate. 6 laptops, 5 desktop scanners, since we have an electronic health record now, and we actually use recliners for the NST test for the mothers to sit in while they are being tested. The ones we have are quite old and need of repair. And car seats and educational materials for our child fatality reduction team. All of that adds up to the $20,757.
Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Chairman Liner?
Yes.
Thank you. Last is another budget amendment for maternity and child health. This is recurring money that was basically carved out of our maternal and child health block grants at the state level for some special projects, but now it's coming back to us. So this is money we used to receive, and thankfully we're getting it back. And what we would like to use this money for would be for LabCorp outside lab testing associated with the maternity program, telelanguage lines. We are heavily using telelanguage in maternity and child health these days, and also some electronic medical record expenses that we're required to do for HIPAA SANS training, electronic submissions, and patient statements. So all of that would add up to $12,397.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mark,
Yes.
Chairman Reiner.
Yes. One comment from me also, so the public is aware, this is not your local tax dollars. This is money coming in from the state, which is your money, we all understand. When it's not our local money, we've received this extra money from the state that we're adding into our budget to meet these needs and requirements.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Next on the agenda, Finance Director, Craig Warren.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here before you this morning. I have a opportunity for a general obligation bond refunding. The county is in a position to recognize some savings by refinancing the callable maturities of its general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2009, which are maturing on June 1st, 2020 through June 1st, 2023. Analysis of the current market rates are favorable, making this refunding work. However, they are subject to change as time passes by. These bonds, when originally refinanced in 2009, were made up of 3 separate issuances. As you can see, the numbers that you see here listed are the amounts, the outstanding balances when they were refunded. You have community college GO bonds, some airport GO bonds, and some school GO bonds listed there. At June 1st, 2019, the outstanding amount of these bonds will be $8,275,000 and will consist of the school portion only. The airport bonds were previously retired back in 2014, and the community college bonds would be retired in the current fiscal year with the June 1st, 2019 payment. Estimates as of January 8th, 2019 show potential savings to the county of $213,588. This amount is after deducting all expenses connected with the refunding. The net present value of these savings as of March 28th, 2019, which is the closing date, is $204,511. Provided in your agendas is a refinancing schedule, which is attachment 3B, that anticipates a closing date of March 28th, 2019. This is an aggressive schedule, but with the fluctuating rates, the sooner the sale takes place, the better chance we have of maintaining the savings shown above. Our actual savings will be based on the lowest rate available as determined by the RFP to various lending institutions. In order to move ahead with this refunding, there are several steps required of the board at this meeting. The first one would be to adopt a resolution, which is attachment 3C, making certain preliminary findings required by the LGC. The second item would be to approve the general obligation refunding bond order. And me, as the finance officer, under the third item, I have filed a sworn statement of debt, statement of total estimated interest with the clerk, and that is attachment 3E in your agenda. And the third item would be just to approve the John Mize and Tom Lee of Womble Bond Dickerson serving as our bond counsel for this refunding. David Cheatwood is our financial advisor, and U.S. Bank will serve as the escrow agent. At this time, I open up for any questions of the board.
I would make a motion to approve all 3.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Any
Also,
questions?
I have John Mize here. He's a bond attorney that's working with us if the board has any specific questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for clarification, make sure that our citizens understand this. You're saying that we're going to have a savings, if everything goes as planned, of $204,511.
Yes, sir.
On attachment 3A there, I see where the cost of issuance of this would be $40,000. So is
Yes.
that the only cost that we're seeing that's going to be incurred as a result?
Yes, sir, and that is baked into those savings already.
It
That's,
is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's after.
All right, and then next question is, if you go to attachment 3B, you've got your financing schedule there.
Yes, sir.
Today being February the 18th, when you're adopting the preliminary resolution, you've got down as March the 4th that we will adopt the bond resolution.
That
What-
meeting
Well, that meeting has been canceled.
being canceled.
So how are you going to
So
fit that in?
we're going to get that into the next meeting. It
You'll
should
have
not-
time to do it
Yes,
and
sir.
everything? Okay.
I believe that is the March 18th, unless unless the board decides to have a special call meeting.
Okay.
I'll bring it up.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
These items, just to point out to the board, they do have to be kind of handled separately, the resolution and the bond order.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
March 4th is canceled. We're going to March 18th. But is the LGC going to approve on March 5th if we don't have the resolution prior to the 18th? How is that going to affect that schedule?
As long as you have the preliminary resolution, they'll go before the LGC. They'll have all the closing documents that'll be available.
So
I don't,
they're not, they're,
They just need to put it on the agenda to approve it in the last meeting, they just need to receive it today.
yes, the preliminary, the acceptance, kind of the preliminary adoption.
okay. Any further questions?
Nope.
So if the board has no further questions, I would ask that if the board would be, entertain a vote to adopt the resolution. Make it,
I hadn't made a
You
motion.
had a motion and a second to approve all three?
we'll do the resolution first, and then we'll come back and do the bond
So they
order.
have to be
Okay,
done separately.
separate,
Yes,
okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman
Yes.
Mark? Chairman Reiner?
Yes. Now, do you need another motion to approve the other?
Yes, the second item would be the approval of the general obligation refunding bond order.
All right, let me ask you a question here. You want a motion on each one of these, or can you lump them together?
If we can do the bond order separately, and then we'll come back and do the motion for everything else.
Okay. Motion for item 2, entrance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mark?
Yes.
And Chairman Reiner?
Yes. Now, 3 through 6.
Yes,
Can
sir.
we
I would
tie
ask that
together?
actually, yes, that would be the 4 through 6. If the board would approve the bond attorney, financial advisor, and U.S. Bank serving as
So-
escrow.
What about the filing of the sworn statement?
That's just something that I have to do with the clerk, which is.
So you don't need anything from us on that?
No, sir.
Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second approving items 4 through 6 on this general fund obligation. Motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Chairman Reiner?
Yes,
Thank you. And I'll be back before you on February 18th with the.
if not
March
before.
18th. If not before, with the final resolution.
If not before. Okay, moving on. Next, planning subdivision for approval, Don Baumgartner.
Good morning. I actually have 2 items, and I'll explain more when I finish the subdivision here this morning. It's something that came up at the last minute. The first proposal is for a subdivision to be considered for your approval, Quail Woods Section 2, Quail Woods Phase 2, Section 5. The property is owned by Quail Woods Village. It is surveyed by Rivers and Associates out of Greenville. The property is located in Township 2 off of Sparrow Drive, which is out off of Broad Creek Road. The subdivision contains 10 lots on approximately 9 acres, and it's proposed to be served by the First Craven Sanitary Water and individual septic systems. In order to move forward with this 10-lot subdivision, a motion by the board to approve the subdivision is needed.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, as I'm a resident of Quail Woods, I would remove myself from voting on this.
And, Mr. Chairman, we would actually need a motion and a second and a vote to excuse Mr. Mark from participating in the discussion and voting on the approval.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the Vice Chairman be excused from voting on the matter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, can I have a motion to approve the subdivision?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the new subdivision.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Don, you got the map on this? We'll bring it up so we can, I know we got the plot here, but
We have it right over here.
can you show it on the screen or no?
I'm not sure if that was sent down here or not.
Okay. Just so the, okay, I guess it's enough in here to show it, it's Quail Woods Village. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Number two.
We'll, in the future, we'll be sure that we can have that down here
I just think-
electronically.
There it is, there it is.
Okay,
Okay, there
I'm
it
sorry,
is. Just so the public can see what we're talking about here. Give a brief description of where it's in between there, Don, would you please?
well, it is actually an extension of the existing Sparrow Road subdivision area, and it has 4 off-site sewer systems that you'll see. Instead of the lots facing the road, they're 1, 2, 3 stacked against one another, and that's where the off-site septic areas will be located for those 4 particular lots. And the balance of the property is pretty much as you see. Some of the lots are larger, and some are smaller, and some are reserved for future development, where they're going to come back and either sell the adjacent land to adjacent landowners or try to do something different to find a location that will make that property available for parking purposes.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, you wanna go on to, you doing Chad's portion?
Yes, sir. This is an item that just came up this past Thursday. It was called the Hazard Mitigation Public Assistance Buyout. As the board is aware, as part of our previous efforts with dealing with hazard mitigation, we have looked at a variety of methods of trying to assist as a result of a disaster where the home was substantially destroyed. And as a result of that, we did apply for and allowed individuals to apply for the hazard mitigation buyout program. And 6 of those properties at this time are under consideration. We will continue to go through the process of collecting additional applications for either elevation or for some type of relocation for that particular structure. And this form will serve as the purpose of dealing with any type of hazard mitigation grant as a result of Hurricane Florence. Now, I will tell you that the process of notification to the county just came this past Thursday, and that's why we're up here talking about it now, and you have not had any previous information about it. March 1st is a deadline to have the designated agent form back to the state. So we are just in the process of trying to use the same type of process that we've used in the past by designating the county manager and myself as the 2 designated agents to sign the various documents for the program itself, including the documents necessary to get reimbursement to the county for any activities that we undertake. So it's a pretty standard form. There's nothing unusual about this. It's just the fact that as we are going through this process, some of this information that we are getting is very spotty and sporadic, and it's not in any timely fashion. So we're doing the best we can to continue to move forward.
Okay, before I entertain a motion, Jack, manager, excuse me, are we not also approving 2 other
Yes, sir.
people to be?
And Don, on that form, there's also the chair as the representative of the elected body, and the certifying agent would be Nan as the clerk to certify that the chair is.
So the motion would be to authorize 4 agents, the signature authority for this. Yourself, planning director, myself as the elected leader official, and Nan as the overall certifying official. Is that correct? Does everybody understand? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Marks?
Yes.
Chairman Liger?
Yes. Don,
Alrighty.
thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Don, before you go, you know how many more that you got on the books that we're gonna be looking at? I know we got 6 now that we're pushing. Do you have a rough idea of where we may be standing?
Probably somewhere in the range of, probably less than 10 so far.
10 more.
A lot of times, once we get involved in that process and the appraisals are done, even though the folks may think that's a viable solution, they decide that it's not a viable solution. Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, Sheriff Mobile Radio Budget Amendment, Chip Hughes, Jesse Pittman. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chairman.
Today, we have come before you for a fund balance appropriation. And what we're looking to do is replace some of the mobile radios in our vehicles that have been flooded or wrecked and are of no longer use to us. And we have salvaged everything we can from these vehicles, but in some cases, the radios were not salvageable. So we're asking for, I think, 5 mobile radios to go in our patrol vehicles.
Receive a motion?
So move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Wait a minute.
I have a question. Mobile radios, these are not the Vipers. These are the old county sheriff's department network radios.
These are the VHF radios, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
But make sure everybody realizes and understands. This is normally new vehicles that are replaced with the old vehicle radios. These vehicles were in the garage and flooded during Florence. Is the reason why we're having to do this. And I don't think anyone wants new vehicles and don't have radios. So it's not anyone's overlook or anything else. This is something that happened during the storm that we need to get taken care of. And we should be receiving some of this money back, not probably all of it, but under Florence's insurance and everything else that we have. It's just flooded vehicles that lost everything. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Marks?
Yes.
Chairman Liger?
Yes. Sheriff, thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ma'am?
Economic Development, Southeast Regional Economic Development Partnership presentation, Steve Yost and Joe Melvin.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I want to introduce our friends here. If you forgot me, I'm Jeff Wood. I'm your new economic developer.
Oh, we just left you off.
Oh, that's right.
Welcome today, our friends from Southeast Regional Economic Development Partnership. Just a quick note about the work that I've been able to do with them over the past month and a half. I've been very impressed. I'd say about 7 of our new RFIs that have came in of opportunities for economic development. About 5 of them have came from the Southeast. And also, I guess the word around town is that I have a little bit of energy when it comes to economic development. I have a passion. I can guarantee you that Joe has definitely felt that. And I can also say that even though we're one of 18 counties, their response time back to me whenever I have a question or I'm pushing forward on something has been pretty amazing. So that, I'll hand it over to Steve and Joe.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Joe and I are very pleased to be here in Craven County this morning. And it's always a good day when we can be in Craven County. And today, Craven is our very favorite county in southeastern North Carolina. And so I want to preface our brief presentation and overview of North Carolina Southeast by welcoming Commissioner Mitchell to our Board of Directors. And I also want to mention what a pleasure it's been to work with Jeff Wood so far. and you guys made a great hire, an economic developer, and he was engaging with us before he even started the job here. And so we have had him down to our offices in Elizabethtown and done a lot of planning. As mentioned, we've already had some interaction on some leads and project activity. Joe Melvin is our Director of Business Development. North Carolina Southeast is a regional economic development partnership. We're very appreciative of Craven being a part of our region. You guys came in April 2017, so it's been almost 2 years since you've been in the Southeast region with us. And we want to talk a little bit about the ROI, return on investment, some of the benefits, and the engagement and activities on regional economic development that we have done with Craven County in those almost 2 years. A little bit of background about our organization. As mentioned, we're a public-private partnership of 18 counties. We have C6 and C3 organizations. We're a full-fledged, robust public-private partnership in that we're a little more privately funded than we are publicly funded. So we have a lot of private entities, private organizations, and companies who help us implement our mission of regional economic development. Being that we are a large, broad, diverse region, we do have a larger board of directors, 42-member board of directors, but we operate as a private sector type entity in that we're lean on staff and that we try to direct as much of our resources into our mission as possible. Just to give you a reflection of the private sector engagement in our organization, to mention this is not a public-private entity that leans way one side or the other. It's a true public-private partnership. And so this is an illustration of our private sector investors. There's actually 2 that are not up there that are new to coming on board with us. So we're 18 counties. This is a map of the Southeast region. And it's an incredible region in terms of the regional assets that we have. And Craven is a big part of those assets. And one reason that we're really glad when you all requested to come into the region back in 2017, because not only did Craven add a lot to the asset mix that we have to do economic development in the Southeast region, I think the other assets in the region are beneficial to what you're doing here on economic development in Craven County. But a little bit about this region. You know, the military has a heavy presence here. You know that here in Craven County. Part of our economic development mission is to leverage those military assets and the recruitment of companies and in the placement of exiting personnel into job opportunities in the Southeast region. We have 5 metropolitan statistical areas, or MSAs. New Bern is one of those. We're very connected, as you all know, with our transportation network in the region. One of the bigger developments is the announcement of Highway 770 to future interstate conversion and standards. But just our midway proximity on the East Coast gives us a locational advantage that a lot of other regions do not have. We've got access to 2 international deep water ports in North Carolina. So Craven is a big part, kind of an anchor for the Southeast region. Agricultural assets are very, very important. I will tell you, about 3 years ago, Farm Futures Magazine ranked every county in America in terms of their agricultural farm productivity. We had 3 counties ranked in the top 6, and about 8 counties ranked in the top 40 in America. So that's a big target in terms of what we do in regional economic development. Primary mission is marketing the Southeast region nationally and globally to encourage companies to consider locations here, all to help achieve net new economic growth, new jobs, and new investment. And Joe, in just a minute, is going to talk about some of the results that we've achieved in the last 4.5 years. I want to mention one thing about our organization. We've been around for 25 years. This is our 25th year in existence, so we're going to be doing some celebration around that this year. But for a lot of those years, for about 20 of those years, we were a state regional commission primarily funded by the state legislature. In 2014, we transitioned to the public-private model that we are now. And that was a major transition, but I want to emphasize that this model is led by local public leadership and our private leadership in the region, but we're still very connected to the state, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, the North Carolina Department of Commerce, and all that we do. So we're very results-oriented. Our mission is to generate projects and leads, companies that will consider locations here through a number of diverse ways of strategies and marketing tactics. That is our unique value, that we can aggregate and leverage public and private resources to scale up marketing to a level that most of our counties are not able to do. So it's a value to our counties like Craven. It's a value to the region as a whole, because we're going to be able to generate more opportunities for each county by doing this thing regionally. We don't act as local developers. That's Jeff's job. We want to add, more opportunities, add resources, and leverage resources to help you guys succeed down here. So I'm going to pass this over to Joe, and then I'll come back at the end to talk about a couple of things we're going to be doing in the future later this year. I do want to mention that we are very strategic-minded. We every 3 years we do a strategic marketing plan, and so we're in the midst of a plan that goes through 2020 that started in 2017. And it's very focused, very targeted in terms of having goals for regional job growth, regional industry and business growth, and investment growth across southeastern North Carolina. And then we also have a local developers advisory group that Jeff serves on now, that acts as somewhat of an advisory board or group or committee to our overall board of directors in terms of giving guidance and recommendations on our planning and our strategies. Jeff.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I do want to apologize in advance. I'm on day 8 of this head cold stuff, so I'm a bit stuffy, so I apologize in advance for that. But to build upon what Steve said, in this 18-county region, you talk about leveraging marketing. We do look at the region holistically, but we are very focused on specific counties, obviously Craven being one of them, and the unique assets that allow us to look at job creation and capital investment opportunities, particularly for Craven. We don't focus on anything else. It's what we do on a daily basis. There's some other partnerships that do different things, but for us, it's about turning over rocks, finding opportunities, traveling, marketing, continuing to better understand the assets. And so it's sort of twofold in the way that we do that. We have our marketing activities where we reach out not only domestically but globally through a series of activities, as well as working, Stephen mentioned the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, which I think Jeff has an opportunity to take advantage. And it's a unique relationship that we have. Only group that sees every statewide lead that comes through their business and recruitment efforts. And so we're able to take a look at that, push that out to folks like Jeff. So those are opportunities that independently that Craven County might not have had an opportunity to participate in. But if we're going to effectively market, There's some things that we want to do to put the best foot forward and understand what those assets are. Some of these things you might be familiar with, this location, one building and sites database. That's an over $12,000 online tool that we use, and I'll show you a screenshot of it a little bit later, to market the buildings. So the C1A Shell building, the Amatol building, the industrial sites, having it broken down by the different lots. So we can take a look at that, and that is the global footprint of Craven County's industrial properties, building sites. Jeff can add commercial or retail if he wanted to, that we ask for no cost share on behalf of the county for that. Dun and Bradstreet and Hoovers, so when we're researching a company, Jeff says, is this company real? And so we're able to tap into that. That's about a $10,000 investment that we make on an annual basis to provide good business intelligence for our counties and vetting these opportunities. Jobs EQ and research support. That's about a $20,000 investment we make. Biggest thing folks want to know now, labor, labor, labor. And we're able to really drill down median wages, understand labor shares, different types of things, and we're able to make the RFIs that Jeff submits back to the state or to companies with whom we engage to make that information more full and rich around what they're doing. Product development. Can't sell out of an empty wagon. Yes, you have the buildings and you have the sites. When Jeff came down, we're engaging in an initiative on the Highway 70 corridor. We're bringing in folks from discussions with Duke Energy, from Norfolk Southern Rail, to talk about how do you get more product out there in order to be able to market it better. One of the things we want to do, we don't want budgets to be an issue for anybody, so we have to set aside funding. So, and I think Jeff is considering going on some what we call recruiting events, marketing initiatives. Excuse me. So we set aside dedicated funding for each of our counties to offset that cost as well, so that doesn't become a burden. And if there are other regional initiatives, whether it's a highway initiative, a gas line issue, we also engage on those on a regional level to better promote our area. Very quickly, a little over 5 years, what has our organization done in this public-private since we have transitioned over? Nearly 4,200 announced jobs, nearly $1 billion in capital investment. This is across the 18-county region. 27 company announced locations, and as you can see, if you do the math, a little over 100, 110, 115 new leads generated every year, turning that to a conversion rate of 30, 40% on being able to get boots on the ground or us going to their company location and meet with them. One of the biggest numbers on there is that over 1,500 building and site recommendations. Because unless we get Craven County's name, assets, and product in front of those companies, you're not going to be in the game to have that opportunity. $1 billion nearly and over 4,000 jobs over the last 5 years is what we've been able to participate in to bring to the region. I mentioned those recommendations that come out of the Buildings and Sites program. You see those numbers broken down by buildings and sites. And so that's directly related to the amount of product that you have here. That's why we're engaging in the product development initiative. But in relation to us identifying opportunities, those coming from the state of North Carolina, those things get rolled up. So I think we had, 3 last week? And so lots of opportunities to put Craven County more on the map. Just a real quick screenshot of that Building and Sites database that we have, that Jeff also has administrative access to change. So when that search is made, boom, those buildings come up, you drill down. There's a whole set of ESRI demographic reports that you can build around that. And as we say, that's what we give to each of our member counties. One quick thing I will mention here, we are part of what is called the North Carolina Aerospace Corridor. Has its own website, has its own marketing materials. Lenore, Wayne, Craven, North Carolina Southeast, and North Carolina Global Transport is a key asset in that. We have leveraged that and are actively going out trying to build on the aerospace, aviation, and military assets that exist along this 70 corridor. Have been able to translate that into a couple of events that we've gone to, and it's picking up some traction. And that nice blend of transportation assets, exiting military personnel with the skill set tied to the aviation and aerospace industry, along with the product that you guys have here. That's going extremely well. We meet regularly as a group, and we're moving on to actually 2 events, one this spring, one this summer, specifically designated carve-outs simply for the corridor. Might not impact the entire region, but specifically to get Craven and these other counties engaged in that space. Last thing I'll talk about here is another GIS tool that we put together in relationship with North Carolina Biotechnology Center that we continue to fund on an annual basis to keep the data updated. We can use this for product development. We talked about some wood type companies. We talked about some other biorenewable asset type companies. And so it's a very in-depth online GIS platform that we offer up. It take you all the way down to the parcel level of who owns it. Some Platts data tied around public infrastructure, some that's not publicly available. And so we use that as yet another marketing tool because we find that's a fast-growing sector across our entire region. So that's a value add because we're all about what do you need to be successful as one of our member counties and to leverage that regionally. Because understand, our region is about 18% of the state, almost a fifth. So that gives us a lot of credibility as we travel across the country and the world to talk about southeastern North Carolina. And with that, we're quickly going through the value assets and strategies that we get back. I'm gonna turn it over to Steve.
Last slide here, y'all, but some very important things here to mention. I did want to go back and mention, Joe mentioned advocacy for key issues, economic development issues in our region that directly impact economic development. I want to give you, that's a secondary part of our mission to the marketing, but I want to give you a really good example of that is going to benefit our entire region. That's the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which is a natural gas pipeline that's coming from West Virginia into North Carolina. It will pass through and end in 3 of our counties back to the west of here along the I-95 corridor. But it's a key critical piece of infrastructure in terms of us having the energy supply to do successful economic development. The line, it's a transmission line. It may be, 100 miles from here, but it's going to service everything back to the east. And so it will have distribution lines and connect into other lines. So we were very, very heavily involved. I was at the direction of our board to publicly advocate in the lobby for the approval of that line. It is under construction right now. A little bit about some future things that we're going to be working on a little bit later this year. And that we're going to be getting more involved. Joe touched on it, but on foreign direct investment marketing, or FDI. Last year, about 30 to 40% of all the prospective companies we talked to were foreign firms. They want to be in the U.S. market, and to do that, they need to have manufacturing over here. We already have more than 65 international firms in the region representing 24 different countries. And so that's pretty diverse right now, but it's an opportunity for us going forward. The board is doing some long-range funding planning that they'll be discussing later on this week. But I will just give you a little hint of that would involve pursuing some state funds to help our 18 counties do product development, like on shell building project that you're doing, or industrial site development and stuff like that. So stay tuned for more on that by next week. Joe touched on product development. We want to create more bandwidth on our abilities to help our counties to do more on product development because we've just got to have it. And then we're waiting to hear approval of an economic development administration grant in which we're going to do these 4 things if we're awarded that grant. It's not a done deal yet. will be, but to update our regional industry sector analysis for the region to see what kind of trending we have going on in all of our counties. Number two, I think, is something that will really touch on Craven County and some of the planning that you all are doing now, and that's an industrial sites needs survey. We want to evaluate our whole industrial site inventory across all of our region, see what gaps we have, and see where our strengths are. We have a pretty good idea of that, but we just need to do a good inventory. But I know that one thing that we're going to want to tie in as part of that is to identify some potential new industrial sites, larger industrial sites in the region. One of those I'd love to be sort of a mega site, 1,000-acre industrial site or thereabouts, and then some that would be, you know, the 200 to 300 acre range. We know that's a gap, and so that's part of what we'll develop on that. And then we're going to do a business incubator strategy with some of our rural counties in the region. So covered a lot of ground here, but I will finish by saying that I think we bring a lot of return on investment, Mr. Chairman, to our engagement, collaboration with Craven County. And we're very appreciative that Craven's part of the Southeast region. It's the counties that form this region. It's a great diverse region, as I mentioned, and you guys are why we exist, and so we feel like we're getting the job done.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Ma'am?
Yes, I do, thank you. We get a couple ones. First, what is your interface with DOT and Fleet Readiness Center?
With DOT, if we have, you know, specific industry projects that we're working with our counties that might need industrial access, new industrial access road or whatever, we'll, you know, help advocate for that. We have had engagement and, you know, overall planning. We had Secretary Trogdon down to speak to our board last summer and talked about some of the road developments, priorities in southeastern North Carolina that primarily affect, you know, industrial and economic development. So I've been in economic development in this region in some shape or form for 25 years, and interestingly, I got into it the year this organization was formed. And we have come such a long ways in that 25 years on highway access. We've gone from it being a complete weakness to being a strength. Now, we do have improvements in all of that, so we're advocating for those.
So it's more of a casual versus a formal process, because I'm not sure, there have been significant improvements made in the transportation infrastructure in Southeast, but I'm not sure that I would say it is a strength when you realize that we are competing against other sections of the country.
Right.
So, but it's a casual interface as opposed to a formal quarterly, let's put our heads together and figure out what industries that we want to attract will require what kind of transportation networks.
Yeah, and, you know, yeah, that's a good description. I will say that, you know, we target about 7 industry sectors. One of those is distribution and logistics. I can't say that we could have targeted that sector as heavily as we do now, say 12 or 15 years ago. Part of that is due to, you know, the improvements that we have, the improvements at the Port of Wilmington and the Port of Morehead City, because there's so much international economic activity in which transportation and the ports are so important. But yeah, we do have areas within the region that we still need to keep working on.
Okay, Fleet Readiness Center is screaming for space. If you built a building tomorrow that could seat 100 engineers, they could fill it. We've got state and federal funding coming into the new Lithan facility, the FRC program that'll be going for the next probably 25 to 30 years. That's an opportunity for the base, it's also an opportunity to bring down defense contractors. For example, Pax River is the one that I would use as a model, that 25 years ago was a sleepy little town and now is a booming military industrial complex area. What are you doing with Fleet Readiness Center in terms of meeting that need for space? If you're talking about industrial sites, I know we're putting the Shell building up, but on the other end of the county, we have got a long-term federally funded program that's got significant state support. Are y'all beginning to work on connecting the dots there to put complexes down near the base to support those requirements?
I think, our engagement on that would be aligned in conjunction and collaboration with your local economic development here. I know we've had some discussions, relatively recently in terms of the marketing side of it. I'll talk about industrial site development in a minute, but on the marketing side of it, of maybe looking for some strategies to talk to supplier companies that interact with fleet readiness that might want a closer proximity or closer location to fleet readiness. And that could be potentially a marketing strategy that would involve, obviously, local economic development, us, and say the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina and other entities as well.
Mr. If you want me to speak on that for a second as well? Yeah, please. The short time that I have been here, I am very much aware of the opportunity for engineering jobs in that area. Also, if you think about it, the fact that we have historically a community that has educated that kind of workforce. So you have the opportunity to shift that over to private sector investment of engineering firms as well. So consider that a target industry, but looking at different kinds of real estate options to complement what DOT requires for those kinds of investments back into the area. So in my past, looking at all different kinds of public-private partnerships. So still more to come on that, but we are aware of that specific opportunity and looking at various creative real estate options to make that happen.
Jeff, let me
Yes, sir.
add to that, so you're not left out there hanging.
Sure.
Colonel Harper's reached out to me about 3 weeks ago, you're aware of, that myself, manager, and you will be meeting with him. For the next 2 weeks, he's gonna be out of town. He's got 3 admirals that's down here working on different stuff. Our biggest issue and our biggest problem is they don't know what they want. He has just come up with a plan, what he thinks he needs, and he leaves this summer to move forward. Our driving factor is they've gotta be within 20 miles or less of the base. And that's our biggest issue. But I think our side of it, what we've been talking about, we don't know actually what he's looking for or what he's needing. So until we find out what they actually want and what they actually do need, the engineer side, they're working right now. I'm not sure if you're aware of, I can go offline because I don't want to make it, it's different. They're changing that.
Well, and I understand it's in flux, but it's not just the FRC engineers, but it's also the opportunities to attract, I'm gonna call them beltway bandits, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term, but defense industry. So my question was in terms of how much the Southeast Economic Partnership is focusing on it. It sounds like it's coming online. And my last one, sir, is with all of these projects and programs, how many projects overall have landed in Craven County and are actively underway?
Yeah, Commissioner Mitchell, those 27 projects, none of those have landed over the last 24 months or so here in Craven County. So we do track through Salesforce Client Management System every opportunity that gets routed there. So we are actively updated in that, and any information we provide and what level of engagement we have. But of those 27 over that short period of time, and so you kind of go back to that recommendation slide, buildings and sites, and a little bit product limited. And I think that's where the strategy lends itself, as well as better defining, us understanding Craven County and those opportunities like you just mentioned. What does that supplier network look like? The standing up the aerospace corridor, specifically looking at MROs, which is something that we're gonna focus on, which is much more targeted. So as we begin to better understand and build out those assets, I think we're gonna be pushing those so that those company location numbers equal Craven County.
Thank you.
One thing I would add to that quickly is, about 75% of all prospective companies looking to do a location somewhere are looking for an existing building.
Right.
And that's frankly where we, had a gap here in Craven County. That's why we're really excited about you guys moving on a shell building, because I think that'll be very beneficial to your marketing efforts.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
that was my main question that I had is if, the majority of inquiries you're getting are folks that are looking for shell buildings. I mean, what square footage are most companies looking for?
Well, I would say our average project that we see size-wise is probably 50 to 75,000 square feet. And we can see them really small, we see them really big. The size shell buildings that have been built in this region, we have several counties, including Craven, that are doing shells right now because our inventory of existing industrial buildings has gotten so low. In order to be competitive, we need some shell buildings, but those sizes have ranged anywhere from 15 up to 45,000 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, my last question would
Sure.
be, what unemployment in the region, do you know what it currently is?
Region-wide, it's about 5.5%.
In comparison with the state or another region?
It's higher.
It is higher.
Regionally, our unemployment rate is higher than the state and the national average.
What do you contribute that to?
Some of it's just some, just built-in stubborn unemployment in some of our rural areas where it tends to be higher. On average, if you just look at it over the last 5 to 10 years, those counties are more to the west and the southeast region. Now, also, we have some high growth areas in the region, particularly along the coast, over around Moore County, Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Fayetteville, where there are people moving in that don't necessarily have jobs because, we're viewed as a job engine, at least right now, to other areas in the country, and so that tends to bump up the unemployment rate as well. Going back to the military thing in terms of unemployment, and when Joe talked about labor, it really is all about labor right now. So we're trying to do our best to show any competitive advantages we have anywhere in the region where we can supply additional labor to companies who are evaluating the region for a location. And we think one of those competitive advantages is the exiting personnel coming out of the military. When you add up all 7 installations we have in the southeast region, it's about 8,000 to 10,000 personnel a year. If they're wanting to move into another job sector, then we're trying to cross-reference, align those skill sets that those folks have into the targeted industry sectors that we're seeing in the region. We think, not too many regions across the country that are going to have 7 military installations housed in it. So we think, at least right now, that's somewhat of an advantage for our region.
Since New York don't own Amazon, maybe we can.
We would take it.
All right. That's all.
We would take a small portion of
There
it.
you go.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you all, we appreciate it.
Okay, next on the list, appointments. If you go to your appointments there, let me see. Craven Aging Planning Board, still working that one. Current appointments, you see that one coming down. Okay, Craven County Board of Adjustment, one vacant. The term of Bud Stilley is due to expire February 28th, appointed 2010. Appointment for this board must be in specified zone, and I think we got somebody in here.
The application came in late
Came in late.
for
Okay.
the vacancy, and so
Have
and
postpone
since-
that until the next board?
that's what Mr. Booker had requested since he was advocating for
That's
it.
Board of Adjustments.
This is not a separate,
I don't know, I haven't seen it yet.
It came in last week while I was away. It's a Mr. Gatlin for the vacancy, and then the Bud Stilley is another one that will be open.
Yes.
So Mr. Catlin was the one that Commissioner Booker had introduced at the last meeting. We now have his application for the vacancy. Mr. Stilley already occupies a second seat on the board.
And I've reached out to him and have not heard back about his willingness.
I believe Mr. Stilley feels a need from the construction industry, that expertise is important on the board. He also lives within the airport zone here near New Bern. He's been a good member in the past. I would almost recommend him, but he does have the skill set you need on the group.
So, the one Commissioner Booker has, we're gonna hold until he comes back.
Correct.
Mr. Bud Stilley, someone can nominate if he so feels he wants a seat, and we can nominate him and approve him today, is that correct?
I'm fairly certain Mr. Stilley will continue to serve.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Mr. Stilley to remain in the seat.
Any comments? If none, if you could find out if he's still willing to serve, we'll do by acclamation. Fire Tax Commission, following terms expire February 28th. Dallas Brown, Howard Carrier, Marjorie Tyker Gonzalez, Martin Hernandez, Chris Register, and Chris Weatherton. Ms. Tiger, Chris Register have both submitted an application requesting reappointment. Alan Gaskin has submitted the attached application seeking employment to replace Ronald Pate, who has resigned.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. Register both served number 9 Township. I have talked to them and asked that they be reappointed. And also, Commissioner, Vice Chairman Mark and myself both represent Vanceboro, where Mr. Alan Gaskins has submitted an application. And I've talked to those folks also, and they would like to ask that he be appointed to serve out the remainder of Mr. Ronald Pate's term. So I would nominate those three.
Any questions, any comments, any additional? Okay, not hearing none, we'll make them by acclamation. Now, how does that feel for Dallas Brown, Howard Carrier, and Martin Hernandez? And
Patty McDaniel is working with me on those, getting
Okay.
back with me, but,
okay.
so it's active, they're being actively sent out to see if they want to be.
If any of these are in your fire districts, please see if they want to serve, or if we have any new assignments, or anybody wants to step up. I appreciate it. Gaskins. Fireman's Relief Fund Board of Trustees, expires the 28th of February. Carl Jarman, Theron McCabe, Roger Weatherton.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Roger Weatherington and Mr. Carl Jarman both serve number 9 Township. I've talked to them. They would like to be reappointed, and I would ask for their reappointment. And also, I would nominate Mr. Theron McCabe to represent Harlow.
I have 3 nominations, both in there. One is getting up in age, and I'm not sure can fill the position anymore, and that would be Theron McCabe. I want to rethink that. All right, we have any questions, any additional that we want to add to that?
No.
All right, hearing none by acclamation, those 3 are appointed. If you please take a look at upcoming, we have quite a few upcoming, coming up in March in all of our areas to bring forward at our March meeting on that. I would appreciate it. County Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, I have no report today.
Thank you very much, sir. You needed that. Because you got a lot in the workshop. County manager.
Mr. Chairman, because I will speak a whole lot the rest of the day, I'm gonna defer my time.
Okay, and I've talked to the commissioners. We're going to rescind the commissioners' report. We got time at the workshop. We'll do it at the workshop area. At that time, I'll take a motion to recess until 10 o'clock. Got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.